Now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your RBLR Rays podcast or show. I keep saying podcast. Sorry. Ben, with me is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
It's going really well. I am just coming off of the high of the WBC that we just witnessed, like some of the most exciting, consistently exciting and high quality baseball I think we'll ever see. So I'm doing good.
Yeah, I love international sports tournaments. Anything where, I can become like hyper patriotic for like, a week or two is always really fun. And yeah, I mean, the US had a good showing. That was fun. So that's cool. But, even better was, Randy. He was fantastic. I know Mexico got knocked off there and Japan ended up winning it all. But what a tournament from him. And even the Isaac Paredes. He had a pretty nice little run. Didn't get as much, recognition, obviously, because he wasn't as great as Randy, but still had a nice tournament. So, overall, good run for a couple of Rays guys this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Isak had a couple of really nice RBIs late in some games where they needed some runs, and he kind of came through. And I think that's kind of a sign of hopefully what are some things to come from him. Like it seems like he is able to, in those moments when you have runners on base, put the ball in play. Randy and Isak both showed a little bit of ability to not swing for the fences every single time they're up to bat, regardless of, it seems like, well, if a home run would be the best thing over here. It's like, well, yeah, it would, but also 2 runs would be great. If you just stick the ball right in between the shortstop and the second baseman, then that's a run. So they both showed a lot of that this tournament. And I think that's kind of what's most exciting for me as a Rays fan is because what has been the biggest issue for us is run creation over the past couple of years, and seeing when we talk about RBIs are kind of a meaningless stat because they only discuss what happened and not how it happened. But the fact that we're seeing some guys that can just put the ball in play when you got runners in scoring position is exciting to me, because I think that's the kind, if we get enough guys doing that, and they're not going to do it every time, but enough guys that can have the right mindset to do that in those moments, that's where we get more run prevention. And with this team, you really only need like 1 or 2 more runs a game, and it changes the whole perspective of our win-loss record.
Yeah, well, I mean, like up until last year, like from whatever, I think like 2018, the team had like they've had a really good offense. Like 2020 was phenomenal. 2021, like last year, they were just not that great because of injuries. So I don't really think this team has struggled much with scoring until last year. But that was Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, Mike Zunino, and even KK. Like, he's not the best hitter, but he's a consistently, league average hitter. So when you're missing those 4 pieces, and then, a couple other guys in and out of the lineup, young players, whatever, I don't really have a problem with the offense. Or, I mean, I did last year because they were all injured, but there's nothing you can really do about that. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really fun tournament. I'm glad Randy did so well, and hopefully he can carry that over because, yeah, I mean, he's a core piece of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at like the things that need to happen for us to get where we want to go as a team, Randy playing at a consistently great level is one of the things that can really propel this team to like the next level. Like, I think if he has a season like he did last year, which by the way was an awesome season, he had a great season last year. Like, don't let the fact that he had a couple slumps get in the way of how great a season he had last year. But if he can replicate that season or even go beyond that, which is I think what he's kind of hinting at with how well he played during the WBC, that is I think what takes us from a trying to get into the wild card or fighting towards the back end of the division to like being in the hunt for the division consistently throughout the season, which is what we've seen in previous years. So I think we're just getting back to that, which is just exciting as a Rays fan.
Yeah, definitely. And just real quick, I just looked it up. So from 2018 to 2021, the Rays had the 5th best offense in baseball by WRC plus. Last year they were the 15th best offense. So yeah, everything totally fine, totally great until everybody gets hurt. So surprise, surprise, Brandon Lau is really important. So he had a really he's having a pretty interesting spring. I know I touched on it on Twitter a little bit, but speaking of Twitter, we do have Twitter questions and some Reddit ones too here. So we'll kind of run through these. Nothing super pressing, I guess, in terms of spring training, but we do have some interesting stuff here. So first one is from Twitter user at MLB Siradsky. He asked, "What do you think the rotation looks like in 2024?" Because we've got
Mm.
so many pieces that we kind of know how it's shaping up right now for 2023 with like, Bradley's going to start the year in AAA. We've also got like Glass now injured and things like that. Like things are already happening. So who do you think is sticking around in 2024, or is it, maybe too early to even say?
I think it's definitely early, but I think you can say some things like Shane's going to be here. I think Springs is obviously going to be here. I would expect Drew to be here still. Um, After that, it gets a little bit murky because I want to say that Tyler's going to still be here next year. And that's what I hope happens. There's always so much so much buzz around him getting traded. I really hope that that kind of ends this year. That we see that they're committed to him being a part of the rotation. That they go forward with him beyond this year. I mean, I would like it gets tricky after that because you're looking at once I think you have Shane, Tyler, Drew, Jeffrey, Springs, and not in that order necessarily. But then you get to that fifth spot, and you have kind of, especially when you like this year, I think it's pretty clear that Eflin's that guy. But when you get into next year, it gets tricky because now you have Patino and Bradley and Eflin all kind of around that spot. And in an ideal world, both Patino and Bradley are pitching well enough that it makes it a tough decision for the Rays. Um, Patino is one where if he's, to be honest, if he's not pitching well enough to get to that spot by the end of next year, I think we can still keep him around. Like I don't think there's any urgency to trade him because I think he's so young he can still develop. And Bradley is I think kind of the same way. So I don't think we necessarily have to. I think there may be some idea in Rays fandom that we have to move off Patino if he's not a starting pitcher by the end of this season. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think we can keep him. But I do think I would like to see him be fighting for that roster spot. And not that he's not already fighting for it, but like really putting together a consistent, strong case. And so I think Eflin gets put in a weird spot. I think one of those three has a chance to get moved before the end of the beginning of the next year. But at the same time, you love to have starting pitching depth. So I mean, if I had to put my money on it, I would say one of Bradley, Patino, and Eflin could get moved before the beginning of next year. But it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they keep that core together of like we said before, McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen, Shane Boz is even part of that. He'll be back.
Oh, that's true. I totally
Glass
forgot about him.
now. Like
Wow.
they've got pieces. It'll sort itself out. Somebody's going to be injured at any given point in the season,
Mhm.
probably more than one person. There are going to be prospects that don't work out. So I think it's too early to tell. But I mean, the thing we do know is that they have the pieces, so there's really like there's no there I'm not like looking ahead and thinking, "Wow, who are we going to have to go out and get for 2024 for this rotation?" Like the pieces are all there. It's just a matter of, the guys performing and sorting it out for themselves. So, not really worried about that. But another question we have here from same Twitter user, he said, "Which prospect do you think makes the biggest jump in the rankings?" Kind of like how Junior Caminero had a really great meteoric rise last year. Who do you think jumps up this year after 2023?
That's a really good question. So hard to determine that. A name that I'm watching is Alika Williams. I think he's an interesting prospect to me, and I'm going to be watching him throughout this year and seeing how he develops. Um, Other than that, I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like there's going to be some pitcher that really makes his bones during this season and shoots up the rank because it seems like that always happens. But I'm not sure off the top of my head. Do you have someone you've been watching?
Yeah, I like Alika Williams as well. Just because he's always had the glove and the bat is really
Hmm.
starting to show flashes. But I don't want to pick the same one, so I'll say Xavier Isaac, the Rays' first round pick
Mm,
last year. It, some, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter because nobody really knows anything when a guy is first drafted out of high school. But a lot of commentators were saying like, "Oh, this is a weird pick. Like maybe it was a reach, whatever." I think he's probably going to establish himself in some capacity as like a power threat because we know he has the raw power. So yeah, I think he's someone that could make a big jump because he's really he's kind of a question mark. So
mhm.
um, yeah, just seeing him perform will be nice. And I know he's pretty good in the complex league in a limited sample. I also really like Chandler Simpson. Like he's got 80 grade speed, but like it's more than that. Like he breaks the scale. Like I ran like a little spreadsheet on minor league stolen bases, and in a 500 plate appearance sample, he was on track for like 140 stolen bases or something like that, like crazy. So only like one caught stealing. Like he's insanely fast. He has 0 power. Probably not going to hit too many extra base hits, but like if you just hit a bunt single and steal second and third, that's as good as a triple, and you're putting some more pressure on the defense. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? Nobody really knows. It's minor leagues are crazy. Prospects are going to break your heart. So, should be fun though.
It should be fun. And I think that's kind of, there's a lot of fun to be had in the Rays minor league system. And like you said, prospects are going to break your heart. You're going to have those guys out there who you thought they were going to be the one, and then they just aren't. But you're also going to have some amazing, stories of guys who just run up to the system and do amazing things. And I think the Rays, because of their organizational philosophy, they collect these obviously, they collect a lot of boom or bust prospects, which are just fun to watch because, even if they don't all make it, it's just, there's always going to be something entertaining whenever you flip on or go to a Rays minor league game, because there's somebody down there who they're tinkering with, who they think could be the next big thing. And that's just fun to watch.
Yeah, they do a great job developing, all their guys across the minors. This next question kind of goes into that from Twitter user at DipperPine777. He's asking, how do the AAA and AA rosters shape up? I think that's pretty loaded because it's going to be, there are so many moving parts. There are guys that are going through injury things that that isn't even like news, like nobody's reporting on it because it's like, minor league stuff, and maybe these guys aren't highly rated prospects. We can kind of like assume where all the big names are going to end up. So I'm not 100% sure, like, what, I mean, I don't mean this in a rude way, but like, I don't really know. I mean, I wanted to include this question because I don't want to like leave anybody out, but like, what do you want us to say about this, Dipper Pines? I don't really know.
Well, given by his username, he's definitely into mystery. So maybe he thinks he wants us to solve the mystery of the minor leagues, which I don't think we're going to be able to do. We don't have any magic journals to help us with that. But I think it is tough because, I think there's some guys who we want to see some movement up, like, a Manzardo, some guys like that who may get the jump up to AAA. I don't know when they have to decide that. Is that coming I guess it's in the coming week. They're going to like assign people where they're going to be to start the year. Maybe it's already happened and I'm just, an idiot, but I think that, I don't know, that's been decided yet. And maybe some of it's still being decided in spring training and in, minor league camp. But I think there's probably some interesting conversations to be had once that gets decided and we kind of see how it shakes up, to discuss, hey, who's down in AA that could make the move up, hey, who's in AAA that we didn't expect to be there that could really, make a name for himself this year. But I think it's kind of a waiting game to see what they decide they want to do with those rosters.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we won't know the minor league rosters, I think, for like another week or two, I want to say.
Yeah.
I believe they start like, later. So yeah, it depends how things shape up in minor league spring training and the instructional camps and whatever they're doing. So I don't think we're going to see any like big name prospects move to like create space for other big name prospects. Like they might just release some guys. Like there are a lot of moving parts. The Rays will take care of it. Don't worry about it. That's not our job, thankfully. Next question here from Funko Noki on Twitter. He said, if you could go back in time and redo one trade, what would it be?
See, that's a tough one. I mean, so I understand why it had to happen because of what was going on around it. I am still sad we moved on from Blake Snell, and I get it why it had to happen, and or maybe it didn't have to happen. But and we've definitely gotten a great return for him, in my opinion. But I think I miss his swagger. I miss the kind of what he brought to the pitching staff for sure. He's not a perfect pitcher. He's been injured a lot, and who knows if how his injuries shake out if he stays here or goes there. It's impossible to tell. But he's a guy that I wish was still around on the team. Not that we don't have starting pitching depth, but he's a guy that I just miss watching him pitch on a weekly basis. So that's one that I am still sad that happened.
Yeah, I mean, if you stay up till like midnight, you can probably catch a start on the West Coast, but I don't know if that's worth it just for Blake Snell. But no, he was good. I'm still excited about Cole Wilcox and Blake Hunt and even Luis Patino, Francisco Mejia. Like, these are all still like great young players that have a lot to turn into. But yeah, Snell was a fun player to have. And I remember when the news broke, it was like it was pretty late at night, and I was
It
just
was.
like watching TV or something, and then I got like a notification like, "Whoa, Blake Snell got traded. That's crazy." So, yeah, it was felt like it came out of nowhere, but it's understandable. They got some good pieces, but yeah, I don't know. I couldn't really think of a trade. I just remember like watching Brad Miller try to play shortstop for a really long time, and that was really painful to go through that. So, I mean, he was a really nice guy. Like he had one cool season with the Rays, but like I feel like bringing in Brad Miller to be like the franchise shortstop for like 2 years was um, I
Yeah,
don't even
it was.
remember who they gave up for him, but whatever it was, like, I'll pass. I mean, if they brought Brad Miller in now as like a DH type guy, like I'd be cool with that. But at the time, like, man, he's not a good shortstop. Oh, that was tough. He's a super nice guy,
Yeah.
super awesome, great person, all that cool stuff, but not a shortstop. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would want to redo that one.
I would too. By the way, I think what a lot of people would say, a lot of people, what I've seen a lot of people would say to answer this question is the Nelson Cruz trade, and I just want to take a moment to disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think the Nelson Cruz trade was a really good decision for the Rays, and for reasons beyond just baseball. I think he brought a lot of presence to the locker room that was needed when we had a lot of those young guys there, and I think he brought a lot of value that you cannot put on a stat sheet, even though he didn't perform as well as we would have liked to on the stat sheet. I think that was a great trade, and I think that it is way underrated by Rays fans on a general level.
Yeah, I mean, like before the trade, the Rays that season, I want to say they had like a 110 WRC plus as a team, and then after acquiring him, they were like above 120. So it's like
Hmm.
just because he wasn't performing doesn't mean he wasn't like providing that lineup protection. So
Yeah.
it was a great move. It just like sometimes players don't play well in a small sample. Like he
Yeah.
played like 30 games with the Rays. Like that's not enough to judge a player. So I might have been a bit more than that, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Next one or last one from Twitter here is from at Avery Evans 30. He said, if you could make any changes to the Trop, what would you make? Like, what would you do?
So my change to the Trop is I don't know if it's actually possible or not, but I would want to figure out how to create turf that does not destroy players' knees and hips, and put that in the Trop. I think to me, like if you're the owner of the Rays in an ideal world, right, you know that your most valuable asset, two of your most valuable assets right now, are consistently playing on that turf. So if I was the owner of the Rays, I would be, like what is the newest, the best possible technology of this stuff so we can extend the careers of my two young superstars who are going to be on this turf on a daily basis. So I'm not so that Wander Franco doesn't have to go play third base or first base in 5 years when he's been running around on the turf for all those years and it's wear and tear on his legs. Like I would be like, what's the newest technology? What's the best possible thing? And I would rip out at every offseason. I would rip it up every offseason, put down new turf. If we could get the best stuff in there, because I think that's the kind of investment you have to make when you have players, between Randy and Wander and you know, newer guys that are going to be coming up that are either going to play shortstop or in the outfield. Like you need to extend their careers, and the turf has been consistently spoken about as something players do not like to play on. Like you cannot tell me that Kevin Kiermaier's longevity was impacted by being out on that turf every single day and running all over it every single day. Like you can't tell me that didn't have an impact on his longevity and on his career. So to me, like if I could make one change, it would be pour every ounce of extra money I have into research on turf till we find something that's not ripping up our players' legs.
Yeah, I think I that's kind of where I was initially thinking, but then I started thinking about amenities, and I was thinking that a
Mm,
sushi bar would be cool. But I think improving the quality of the team and like the quality of their lives is probably a better investment. So I would go with your idea instead, but I think a sushi bar would be cool. I
that
mean,
would be cool.
you know, it's a pretty uh, friendly dining option for a lot of people, a lot of
It is.
versatility there. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but good question though. We definitely
Yeah.
took that in two different directions. Last question here is from Reddit, and it kind of goes into what you're saying with Wander here from Reddit user at Double Dose Larry. He asked, "What is your honest projection for Wander in 2023?" There are a lot of people that are like super high on him. Some are really skeptical because of injury stuff in the past. Still, like honestly, what do you see Wander doing this season in 2023?
So the homer in me wants to say he's going to be an MVP candidate and have like a 8 WAR season or whatever. I think what I would like to see as a projection of him is like we've talked about how he's like put across, over like 3 seasons, he's put together like a 5 WAR season. My projection for him is a 5.5, 6 WAR season, consistently being out there playing every day. And I don't know that he's in the MVP conversation yet. I think there will be times in the season where he will be in the conversation. I don't know that he's matured enough as a ball player yet to have that consistency throughout the year to where he can be in the conversation at the end of the year. But I think there'll be times when he's in the conversation, but it's really going to be about him being consistent, being out there. So I would say my projection for him is probably like I could say maybe 30 or 40 doubles, maybe 20 homers, maybe 15 to 20 stolen bases. Would like to keep the on base percentage, I would think, is going to be pretty high. And I think he ends up with about 5.5 to 6 WAR, because I think he's that kind of player, and that's kind of but I don't think he's going to be like a 10 WAR player who's like leading the MVP race. I just don't think he's ready for it yet. I think next year we could see that, but I just think he needs a full season under his belt where he's been able to do that without injury, and then I think we can really start to get crazy with the predictions. But right now, I mean, even what I've just suggested is an insane prediction for a player. Like that's the level of play that he's shown us, and that's what I would expect and hope to see this year.
Yeah, I honestly, that's probably pretty close to the minimum of what we're gonna see from him. Like through all
Yeah.
these, rookie growing pains and a couple like weird injury things, like he's been basically a 4 to 5 WAR player. So if he's
Hmm.
doing that with, being a rookie, being not just a rookie, but like one of the youngest players in the league, I
Hmm.
think he's, a pretty safe bet to hit that 5 F WAR mark, for sure. So I
Hmm.
don't think he'll be the best hitter on the team this year in terms of WAR. I don't think he'll finish that. I think, it's still like Brandon Lau for sure. But Wander should be up there. I think he'll be the second, maybe the third best if Randy has a really great year. So
Hmm.
um, he's going to be like a focal point of this offense. He's going to play hopefully 100. If he plays 150 games, that's awesome. If he plays
Yeah.
140, I'm happy.
Hmm.
I just want him to, make sure he's still taking care of his body and all that stuff. So honest projection, in the 5 to 6 WAR range for sure. Like just
Yeah.
because he's basically done that with all of his, extracurricular stuff going on. So yeah, I'm excited about him, and these were some really great questions. So thank you all for sending those in on Twitter and Reddit. Remember, you can follow us at RBLR Sports on all social media. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, so you can interact with us, get us these questions, help us help you, because we'll talk about the stuff you want to talk about. You just have to let us know. Like, I can't read your mind. So I also appreciate like all the DMs and stuff and suggestions for the game notes stuff. You can get the full experience for this podcast on YouTube, obviously, because you can see our faces. You can see my little shelf back here. I've got like Kevin Kiermaier autographed ball, a couple books about stuff. Yeah, making a little studio in my closet here is fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's our plug there. We can get into like our actual topic. So once again, thank you all for those questions. So Zach, you want to start us off here with
Yeah. So
our
we had. I mean, obviously next week, beginning of the season. That's super. We're super
opening
exciting.
day is Thursday.
Thursday. But before the next time that we speak and you hear our voices again, Rays regular season baseball will have been played, which is super exciting. Super exciting. So one of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit before we got there is, what do we expect from the division? What do we expect from the teams in the AL East? We're going to be playing them less this year, so how good or bad they do is not as big of an effect on the team, on the Rays, as it has been in previous years, but it's still a very big effect on the team. We're still playing them a lot, so want to just talk a little bit about what we expect from them this year. And so go ahead and get started with the Yankees, because they are, as much as we clown on them, they are the second best team, in my opinion, in the AL East. Because I think we're the first best, just spoiler. But I think the Yankees, they're in a tough spot right at this very moment, because they have been, dealt a huge blow. Their biggest piece that they brought in the offseason was kind of going to be the stabilizing piece of their team, is injured, and we have no idea the status. He is in a throwing program, starting a throwing program soon. They're optimistic that he will be back. But I'll be honest with you, the way the injury was described initially, and the verbiage around it afterwards, this sounds like the Tommy John dance, where you have an injury, he comes back, he throws a little bit, he gets up to a minor league game, he has some pain and he's gone. So like I don't want anybody to be hurt. I hope he's not hurt because I really like him as a player. He's a fun player to watch. He has great stuff. I love watching him play. So I would rather him not be hurt. But if he is hurt, it really puts a lot of pressure on Luis Severino, on Nestor Cortez to have another really good season, which I don't think he's going to. So I think the Yankees are a little bit in limbo right now as far as their pitching. Their pitching was one of their like real strong points last year, which was kind of under the radar. Their pitching was really, really good all throughout the year and was kind of one of the reasons why they were doing so well at the beginning because Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez and they were pitching super well and they had the offense was clicking. Towards the end of the season, the offense just stopped clicking altogether, and the pitching was still fine, but the offense just fell apart. And to be honest, they didn't really make any moves to actually improve that in the offseason. The biggest the biggest addition, quote unquote, he was on the team at the end of the year, but like Harrison Bader. They hope he's going to make it, make some improvements and,
well, he's injured too, though. Now
he is injured too. And that's the thing. Like the Yankees are kind of hurting right now. And so this is where I think they're in danger of getting off to a slow start. And I don't know, obviously they still have Aaron Judge. So he's going to win you a couple games for sure. Like just by himself, he's going to win you a couple games. But if, whatever the games he doesn't, because every player is going to go 0 for 4. So on the days that he goes 0 for 4, I don't really see where the production is coming from. Like, they have some guys in there that can do it. DJ LeMahieu is still there. The course of Josh Donaldson is still out there. Occasionally he'll rip one, so they have a couple guys on that team who can produce, but with Aaron Judge is the center point, and he always was going to be. And without the pitching depth, I think their pitching depth is a huge issue for them. And if you listen to people talking about the Yankees who follow the team, that is something they say too. Like I listened to a couple of Yankees podcasts, read some articles. They're concerned about their pitching depth without Rodon. So I think that could. That could show itself very early if he's hurt, and it is really going to hurt them throughout the year. So while I think they're definitely still a threat because they do have their bullpen is actually still really good. They have a really solid bullpen. But when you're just looking at their starting pitching and their offense, I think they're weaker than they were this last year. So, I mean, I don't know, first of all, they're definitely not going to do as well as they did last year. I think even Yankees fans would say that because it was obvious that the team cratered the second half of the year. And I don't think you're going to get the same performances that propelled that opening day to the middle of the season start that they had. I don't think you're going to get those same performances. So I think it's going to be a downgrade this year. I think they're still going to perform well and still be in the mix, but I think they're going to take a step back this year.
Yeah, definitely. They have, resources to go out and acquire guys. They have a ton of money. They got an okay enough farm system that they could, make a deal for whatever kind of bat or arm they want like later in the year. But I don't think they're going to have nearly as hot of a start as they did last year. Like you said, they're pretty banged up. Rotation is missing like 2/5 of it right now. Bullpen is missing a couple key guys. Yeah, this is the time for, the Rays to start strong. That would be really helpful. But even then, like everybody's still going to get injured. Like they already have injury troubles. So it's not like, oh, we had our injuries early in the year. Now we're over it. Like teams are always going to continue to churn through players. Like that's just the nature of the sport. It's a grind. There's 162 games. So if they're having these troubles now, it doesn't mean that they're getting them out of the way early. It just means they're having troubles now. So I don't think there's no way they replicate what they did last year unless they're trying to replicate their second half where they did not play well. I think that's something that could be realistic, but no, I mean it's Aaron Judge and then a bunch of question marks. So I mean they're going to be relying on a couple of rookies. They got Oswald and Oswaldo over there. I mean, I guess I don't know if they're still qualified as rookies, but you get the point. They want to already call up Volpe, and he's had limited time in AAA. Like they have good, young, exciting players, but like if you're relying on those guys, like we saw the Rays kind of do last year, like we had good, young, exciting players, and look what happened there. So you don't need a bunch of question marks and high ceiling guys. You need guys that you can depend on. And right now it's Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, Clay Holmes, I guess, but even he had like a pretty rocky, not rocky finish, but he came back to earth later last year.
Michael King, when he gets, I think that they're expecting him to come back. So he would probably be one other one that they would consider a rock for them. But
Right, that's true. I mean, they did run him into the ground, so they'd
they
probably do
did.
consider him. They love to run their bullpen guys into the ground, which is an interesting choice. I don't personally agree with that. Ethically, I don't
Yeah.
think that's right, but they can do what they want, I guess, and continue to not make it to the World Series despite spending the most money. So it's fun to rip on them.
It is fun to rip on them. Another team that it's fun to rip on is the Boston Red Sox because they are a mess right now. And between, losing Xander Bogaerts, between the unfortunate injury to Trevor Story, between them having no pitching, they don't have no pitching. They have some pitching, but they have very little, really
You
high
mean
quality
Corey
pitching.
Kluber isn't going to win the Cy Young in Boston?
Hey, you know what?
Wow.
You never know. I will say, I think Corey Kluber did show that he is still capable of going out there and performing at a middle of the rotation level
Yeah.
as a starter. The issue is he's their opening day starter because Chris Sale is not ready to pitch yet. So that's kind of the problem that they have. So that's kind of the problem is I don't if Corey Kluber is your opening day starter, there's some nervousness in your voice. They have some guys who can perform well. Bello, they expect to come. He's looked really good so far in spring training. They expect him to come up and perform at a high level in the majors at some point this year. Maybe he will. He's got good stuff. It'd be fun to see him come and perform. Chris Sale, again, I don't wish injury on anyone. Chris Sale's a very fun pitcher to watch when he's healthy. I root for the best players being out there so we can see the best go against the best. So, I mean, I think, hopefully Chris Sale gets healthy and gets on the field because I would love to see that. That would be very fun because he's got some crazy stuff and his delivery is fun. But the problem is they have their pitching is not awful. They have some guys out there who can do some things. The issue for them is the offense to me because it's Rafael Devers and then a lot of guys that I don't know what to expect from. I think, I hope to see some improvements from Kike Hernandez is still on that team, so he could perform well. He could have a good season. He's had good. We've seen him go on stretches of consistent good play. But it's just when you look down the lineup, you're just not scared of any of these guys. You're scared of Devers. But once you get past him, it's who are you scared of? I'm not scared of almost anyone on that team.
No, I mean it's honestly kind of similar to the Yankees offense where they've got their one guy and then a bunch of question marks. And with the Red Sox, it's not I mean, I feel like the Red Sox might even have about the same level of offense. I mean, it's a good offense, but without Bogarts, without Story, that's a huge step back.
Yep.
Just because those guys are established. I don't think Bogarts is, the best player in the world, but he's certainly he was great at Fenway. He knew how to use the Green Monster pretty well to his advantage. His home and road splits are interesting, so it'll be fun to see how he does in San Diego without the help of that big wall out there. But it's Devers and then a bunch of question marks. So their bullpen, they've got some interesting arms. I like Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock. I believe they're both still bullpen pieces. I don't know if either of them are transitioning to starting, but I don't believe so. But that's kind of it too in their bullpen. Who else? They're just it's question marks. So it's definitely a transition year for the Red Sox. I'm not scared of them.
No, and I think one thing that's going to be, to me, the most interesting thing to see for me this year is how much longer are they going to give Shane Bloom to continue to develop this team. And I think if they have another tough season, that Boston market is not going to be nice to him if they have another bad season this year and they don't perform well. And I think it gets really dicey if you get to the middle of this year and they're not performing well. I think you get in a really tough situation where you have to make some tough decisions about these players you have, because if you get to the middle of the year and you're and you're awful, well, you can make the moves to really go full rebuild and do that. But if they're middle of the pack, which I think they have to, I mean, they're not awful. I'm joking, but they're not an awful team. They're not they're not a 100-loss team. I don't think any of the teams in the AL East are a 100-loss team. So they're going to still be competitive. And I think it gets really dicey for them if you get to the middle of the year and they're middle of the pack and you have to make some tough decisions to either try to kind of do what they did last year and retool and write it out, or if you have to start saying like, we gotta make some decisions here. We got to move off some guys. And if they're middle of the pack still, they're not, Red Sox fans are not going to want to hear it. They have to move off their guys to rebuild. So it could get dicey towards the middle of the year this year. And I just think we just have a lot yet to see of what they're going to look like.
Yeah. It should be, interesting for them. And I mean, it's just that the other like teams, there are other worse teams in the AL. So like, I think Boston like could fight for a wild card spot, but I don't think they will. But that's basically like their ceiling is maybe they sneak in as like a third wild card team.
Yeah.
Just because there's also like no depth either. Like if they start to get hurt, like you're gonna have Bobby Dalbec play shortstop again or something like that. Like
not.
It's crazy. Like I think we're kind of spoiled. Like the Rays definitely like struggled last year with their depth because they were all so young, but like you still kind of like there was some like semblance of a plan. Like, okay, Wander Franco went down, so Taylor Wall's like, yeah, he had a tough season, but like the plan was, okay, he can fill in for a little bit, but like there's not really, it doesn't feel like there's a plan in Boston. So that's going to be interesting when, injuries inevitably happen to everybody. So next up, we got the Blue Jays here. They're honestly like a pretty strong team. Their defense got better overall with the acquisition of Varsho and obviously KK. Offense probably took a step back overall just because they had a lot of guys that performed really, really well last year. Bichette, Guerrero. Guerrero was I don't want to say he was down, but I feel like I had higher expectations for him. But he's still going to be a great player, still going to get some MVP votes, I'm sure. Rotation outside of Gosman and Manoah is a question mark. I know Kikuchi's been really good in spring training, which is interesting for him, but it's still, an unknown. So they've got, a good top two, but then the rest of the rotation question marks. Bullpen's the wild card outside of Jordan Romano. Like he's pretty solid. He's pretty locked down. He had a great year last year. I'd feel confident if like he was in a closing role with the Rays. So I mean, he's a good player for sure. But yeah, the middle back of the rotation as well as almost their entire bullpen, like the team is their success is gonna depend on those positions because you kind of know what you're gonna get from the offense. It's pretty deep. Like their lineup 1 through 9 is solid. They've got two great catchers, probably I'd say maybe the best catching duo in the league offensively. Yeah, just a solid team. I know, overall depth, like Whit Merrifield is kind of like the stopgap, I guess, if like things go wrong, like he can kind of play everywhere. But outside of that, like if you lose like Springer and KK, which is probably likely at some point for them just because of their histories, Merrifield steps into like a corner outfield role, and then it's like, okay, now you have some AAA guy playing infield and then maybe center field, and it's like there's like one row of depth, and that's Whit Merrifield, and then it just kind of all goes out the window. So they better hope they're healthy, and they better hope their bullpen, they hit on some bullpen guys and maybe like a mid-rotation starter. Maybe they go out and get someone. But realistically, I think they might be like second or third best team in the division, kind of depending on how the Yankees injuries things shape up. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're still a solid team though overall. Just a couple obvious question marks.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that to me, with the Blue Jays, I really just need to see it from them. Like, we've heard a lot of talk. We've seen a lot of, great offensive numbers. And then you see what happened in the postseason last year, which like is, their bullpen imploded. They scored a lot of runs, their bullpen imploded, and they got bounced. Like that is what that's kind of been the story with them the past couple of years. So can they put it together as a team? They have so much talent on that team. So can they put it together and perform? Because I feel like when you, especially in like the general media, the Blue Jays have been like this is their year for like 2 or 3 years now, where it's like, if this is their year, this is the year they come and take, and they just haven't. Like they haven't won an AL East crown in a long time, and they haven't won one with this sort of new crop of talent at all. So can they do it? Yes, they can. Will they? I'm skeptical because, just like you said, once you get past Gosman and Manoah, it's very dicey in the rotation. And I am not the biggest Alek Manoah believer personally as well. I think he's a little overrated. He's very good, but I think that I was very annoyed that he got Cy Young votes over Shane last year because I think that's ridiculous. But they definitely have a good 1-2 punch. But I just think I'm not sold on them. I haven't been sold at any point in this rebuild that they've had when everybody said they're going to be they're going to win I've never once been sold on them because I just haven't seen it. When you look at the Yankees and the Rays, you've seen them win the division in recent years. Even the Red Sox, as recently as 2018, you've seen them win the division. You've seen they can do it. The Blue Jays with this core have not proven they can do that. So until they do that, I am not going to be able to believe in them.
Yeah, they really just have to go out and show it, and that's a pretty good point. So a team that I don't think will really show much of anything, but maybe it'll be fun, is the Orioles. They've got a strong bullpen, honestly. Their bullpen is that's their thing right now, which is great. Good for them. They've got a nice nice little formula for acquiring guys, whatever, building them up, finding good arms. But their offense definitely overperformed last year. Tons of guys, all their stopgap guys, actually had really good years, which was cool for them. Good for them. Adley's obviously awesome. Gunnar Henderson looks like the real deal, but their rotation is it's a mess. So yeah, strong bullpen, weak rotation, offense probably taking a step back. There's some depth in their roster. They've got, if a couple guys go down, in the bullpen or in the lineup, there's enough depth to cover, but it's not really quality depth. It's just kind of quad A guys. So that should be interesting as the season goes on. I don't really think they're going to be competitive, but they had that really fun run. So I don't want to not give them credit, but that really wasn't a reflection of their identity, I guess. I think they're still maybe a year or two away from being actually competitive when, more pitching prospects arrive, and they're going to start arriving this year. DL Hall should probably establish himself a bit more, I think. And then Grayson Rodriguez, I think he's 100% real. So he should be fun, but you're not going to win a division or really compete for a wild card spot if you're relying on a couple of rookie pitchers and a second year catcher who is very good. He might be he might be the best catcher in the league, but outside of that, they're just not very strong. Yeah, I'm not threatened by them, but they're fun. They're honestly one of my favorite teams. Just because I've always liked the teams that aren't good. So when they started getting bad, after their little mid 2010s kind of runs they were having, I was wow, the Orioles are kind of cool. I don't know, they got fun prospects, so I'm interested in them, but not for a couple more years.
Yeah, I think that of the teams in the AL East that are not the Rays, I think the Orioles may be the team I watch the most of that's not us, only because I think they're just kind of fun, and I like Adley Rutschman a lot. He's just awesome. I really wish that we had him. If there's one player in the AL East that I covet and wish I could just steal, it's him, because he's he is everything you want from a catcher. I am super jealous of him. So I just like watching him play. But I agree. I think they are one off season where they make a big splash in free agency away from being competitive. I kind of thought maybe they would do that this offseason, and they didn't, which is fine. They had to let the guys cook a little bit longer and then inject some high level talent to get you to the next level. I think that's probably their plan right now, is just kind of keep letting the young guys play. And then next offseason, when there's some free agents that come available, grab one and throw them on the team, and then, ride it out and see where you can go from there. Because I think that they have a lot of really young, fun talent. And I think giving those guys another year to play and then, seeing what they can do next year, I think they could really compete next year. But this year is just going to be, they'll have some runs. They'll go on a 10-game winning streak at some point in this season, and be really fun to watch. And everybody will say that they're going to make a wild card run, and they'll lose 10 games, and we'll pretend that we never said that. But they're fun. We'll watch them. I'm going to enjoy whenever the Rays play them, because we'll get to watch some fun young players. I'd love to see Grayson Rodriguez pitch this year. That'd be fun. But yeah, they're not going to be in playoff contention this year. Next year, we'll see you next year.
Yeah, definitely next year. So just a quick, 1 through 5 ranking. How do you see the division shaping up by the end of the season?
I think I think the Rays have the most complete team, and I'm not just saying that as a Rays homer. I think when you look at the lineup 1 through 9, you look at the rotation and the bullpen. I think the Rays have the
And the
most
health.
and the health 100%. Which, knock on wood, that it stays that way. But I think the Rays are the most complete team in the American League East, and so I think they're gonna win the division. And I think behind them is going to be a very close race between the Yankees and the Blue Jays. Because I still don't believe in the Blue Jays yet. I'm going to say the Yankees come in second and probably get a wild card spot. The Blue Jays will come in third and be in contention for a wild card spot. I don't know if they'll get it or not. The Mariners are really good. And then it's going to be, I think, my one hot take is I think the Orioles are going to finish above the Red Sox again this year. I think the Red Sox are going to be last and the Orioles are going to be fourth, and it'll be a good springboard for them to, continue to, be not just the worst in the division and continue to spring forward into the next season.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun finish down there at the bottom with the Orioles ahead of the Red Sox. But yeah, I agree. I think the Rays are the top team in the division. Just going based on how things look right now, I'd probably put the Blue Jays in second, Yankees third. I'll still go Red Sox fourth and then Orioles fifth, just because I feel like the Orioles might even try to not tank, but like, maybe Cole Irvin has like a weirdly good season and they decide to like move on from him, just get it over with. Or maybe John Means gets healthy and he comes back and then they decide to trade him or something and kind of just, I don't know. Maybe they hold on to him though, because they might need some pitchers in the future. But yeah, I think we'll see Rays, Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles. So basically the same thing, just flipping a couple teams. But I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
Yeah, and I think that the part of the reason what makes the AL East such a fun division to watch is that there is some, it's not set in stone of like these are the teams in this order. Like it's definitely like, and could the Rays not win the division? They could. It's possible that the Blue Jays or the Yankees could have a really good season and win the division. I just don't think it's very likely. But I think that there's a lot of competition in the division. Like I don't think there is any easy games. Like even the Red Sox, like you're still gonna, if you go to Fenway, you could lose a couple games. Like it could 100% happen. And if you go to go to Camden Yards, or if they come here, like you could lose some games to any team in this division this year. And I think, that's what makes it such a tough division, because even the teams we say are down or like they're not that good, when you compare them to the not that good teams in other divisions, they're still better.
Yeah, the AL East is still on top for sure. Like I don't really see a better division in baseball. Maybe the NL East is pretty competitive too.
It's pretty close. Yeah.
But yeah, the AL East for sure is on top, and so is shop.rblrsports.com is on top, and that was really wonky. But basically, just buy a shirt. Go over to shop.rblrsports.com. You can buy a team-inspired T-shirt, not officially licensed. And use promo code Flappy for 10% off your order. That's FLAPPY. We got the Rays, we got the Bucks, we got the Bolts, we got the Rowdies, all that good stuff. Buy a shirt, spend your money. It's better than spending it on I don't know. What do people buy right? What's popular to buy right now?
Teslas.
An air fryer? Is that
Teslas? People like to buy Teslas.
Oh yeah, Teslas. Yeah, I mean, you could spend money on gas for your car, or you can buy a shirt and just, watch the game at home, wear your shirt at home, or do both. Take out a loan for gas money. Take out a loan to buy stuff from shop.rblrsports.com.
We're going to get forgiven anyway in the next administration.
Yes. Yeah, so after you like and subscribe, then you can buy a shirt. Do it in that order. So before we get into our opening day roster power rankings things, I just want to kind of go through a baseball savant like quick crash course, because I keep getting messages on Twitter about how to find stuff and how to do stuff, and people ask me like, how do you know that this is the stat and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give you like a quick couple minute breakdown on how to use this, because it's really cool. I'm not going to show you all the features because there's a lot, but it's a nice thing to be able to do for yourself. So, I mean, not that like you can't ask me questions, but like I get a lot of like questions that you could probably Google in like a 3-minute search. So we're going to see if we can help you out over there. So head over to Baseball Savant. This is, I use Fangraphs a lot too and some other platforms, but Savant's really great for just, finding stuff. So I'm going to teach you how to use the search feature. It's right up here. You click search, and you're going to get this screen with a ton of options. Lots going on here. I'm just going to show you how to find like whiff rate for pitchers in spring training this year. So player type, you want to have it set on pitcher, obviously, because you're looking at pitchers. Want to switch on over to 2023, and we're going to go over here and go to spring training. So unclick regular season because there's no regular season yet. So right now we're set up to search through pitchers in 2023 spring training. To find whiff rate, you want to change the total pitch parameters down here. So this is where it gets a little tricky sometimes when you're looking at things, but right now I'm just going to give you a quick breakdown on whiff rate. So we want to look at only pitches swung at because we want to see like that's our overall number. So only pitches that are swung at, and then we're also going to go up here to pitch result and change that to swing and miss. So right now our search features are going to return us, we're going to see basically the total thing is every pitch that's swung at, and then divided by the swing and miss, or the swing and miss divided by total pitches swung at. That's going to give us our whiff rate. We want to switch it to pitch percentage so we can get like the actual rate. And let's say total number of pitches, pitchers who have been swung on 25 times. I'm going to sort it by descending so we can see like the top whiff rate guys right at the top. And then that should be, let me just double check. Yep, pitches swung at, and then our pitch result. Good. Okay, so when we click search, this should give us the spring training whiff rate leaders, and it updates like nightly. So whatever it is, like I think it's like 9 a.m. the next morning, it refreshes or whatever. It gets like the data from the game. So these are the spring training whiff rate leaders. Some guy named Rio Gomez, he's gotten 19 whiffs and 25 swings. That's insane. That's unsustainable. That's not realistic. Felix Bautista is really good. We talked about that Orioles bullpen. That's something that, you know, it's not going to stay that high, but it's pretty good. Like, good for him. If we want to look at Rays specific players, we have Evan Reifert over here at a nice 54.5% whiff rate. But I'm going to scroll up and we'll just switch the team real quick to Rays. So it only looks at Rays players who have been swung on 25 times. That way we can get just some more RBLR specific stats here. So yeah, we got Reifert, Brewer, Perez, Ben Heller, who's been making a name for himself this spring. Mercado, Jeffrey Springs has been just absolutely unreal, like a 42% whiff rate as a starter. Like, that's crazy. Beeks, Birdie, Pochet's up there a little bit. Kyle Crick's had a good spring. And then we start heading down the list here. I think we're going to see Josh Fleming near the bottom. Oh no, he's up here. That's not too bad. That's not bad. Okay. 24% whiff rate for Fleming. But yeah, that's just how you find whiff rate. You got to really play around with it though. There are so many things you can do with the search feature that like, you really just have to get in there and play around with it. If you have questions, I guess you can let me know. I'll see if I can help you, but like, you really have to just try it yourself. It's pretty fun once you find all that cool stuff. So, I just wanted to show you all that because go to the Savant search feature. It's great. You can find a lot of good stuff. Anything I should, thanks. Anything I should add on to that, or we're probably good. I mean, we want to not take forever here on this episode.
Well, yeah, I think that, it's one of the things that's so fun about baseball is you can say, I think this thing, and then you can go to one of these amazing websites and find the stats to back up exactly what you think. And you can even skew the statistics if you want to. Foolish Baseball has a great video on how to make stats lie, which is very funny. But it's like you can make stats lie for you if you want, or you can just, find that you're right, which is great. It's always great to go be validated by the statistics.
Yeah, like somebody told me the other day, like, oh yeah, Josh Lowe is a really good contact hitter. I'm like, what? Like, no, like if you go look up his contact rate, it's terrible. Like, he was so bad last year. So like, if you're gonna say something, like, just search it first, so I don't have to do that, because I don't want to do it for you. It makes me sound really mean. So anyways, we'll do the roster power rankings real quick. Not much change, so let me just share that screen. Let me get that up. I had it ready and then I stopped. Not much going on here. Once again, I just want to clarify, I'm the one who put, a couple people put Springs at number 1. Okay, I only filled this out once, but I did put Springs as my number 1 starter. I know McClanahan was named the opening day starter. Probably should have mentioned that at the top of the show, but that's okay.
Oh, that's true. I mean, that's kind of like we all knew that was coming.
Yeah. I mean, it was a given. But McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen, Eflin, Yanni looks like he's probably going to get that 5 spot. Patino is just that command yesterday is,
Yeah.
that was his final chance to kind of make his name for himself. And the stuff was really, really good. I love the change up, the sinker. It was phenomenal. Like the movement was great, but he's just still kind of prone to those blow up outings where Yanni
Yep.
really isn't. So I think Yanni gets that 5th spot. Patino, they want to make him a starter, so I think he'll start the year in AAA, which means Fleming could be in a bullpen role.
Maybe.
So that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yep, I agree. I think that's
Yeah.
definitely. I think Trinos definitely has earned that 5th spot. So
Yeah, he's a safe bet for sure. Like you know what you're getting from him each time out. So good for him. Bullpen, not much going on here, not much changing. We got Fairbanks, clear number 1, and then Jason Adam, Clevenger, Beeks, and then Poche. Poche's been climbing a little bit. I think people maybe they know how to look up whiff rate because Poche's had a pretty good spring.
yeah.
He's that curveball is pretty refined now at this point, so I'm excited about that. Kevin Kelly, he had a pretty nice outing yesterday. Ryan Thompson's still getting some love, even though he's pitching okay, but he's not like pitching a ton. Trevor Kelly not getting much love. Understandable. Ben Heller should be higher than this, in my opinion. He's been really good. Kyle Crick could be higher, but understandable. Probably the top 6, maybe 7. It just depends on what they want to do with Fleming up here.
Yep.
So, yeah. Any thoughts on the bullpen situation?
Not really. I think it's been pretty. I think it's not a whole lot has changed. I don't think anyone has made enough of a mark to really upset kind of our top 5 or 6 guys. But it's been some fun watches. But I think it's pretty much set.
Yeah, definitely. And a couple of the non-roster invites got reassigned to minor league camp, so that kind of makes these decisions easier. Same with catching situation. Bethancourt and Mejia. I don't know why it's so close. Like Bethancourt is he's much better than Francisco Mejia. I love Mejia, but I don't think it should be this close. Pinto was option at AAA, so that kind of clears things up here. He wasn't gonna really play and make the opening day roster anyways, but he's next man up. So we'll move on from catchers to infield, which is interesting here. Pretty clustered at the top still, but we've got Yandy, Wander, Brandon Lau, Isak Paredes, Taylor Walls, who has been pretty decent with his new swing adjustments. I really like that. And then we have a pretty significant drop off with, lumping Aranda, Brujan, Robertson, and then Gray is kind of holding up the back. But Gray is still in camp, which is interesting to me.
He's still in camp. That's fun.
He's still in. So, yeah, I don't think he makes the roster, but it's interesting. Definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But it looks like the top 5 are pretty clear here, and I think Aranda and Brujan and the guys below them, I think they're gonna start in AAA. Honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we'll see Aranda and Brujan in AAA to start the year. I think there's a better chance that one of the guys like Gray or Robertson makes the opening day roster, just because I think they maybe need a little less time to cook. They're kind of what they are. So I think there's a chance one of them makes it.
Yeah, I'd rather Aranda and Brujan play every day and continue to develop than to sit on the bench at the majors and not develop.
Yeah.
Couple of cuts in the outfield with Witherspoon, Cardenas, and then Holsizer makes this a little bit more clear. But we've got Randy, clear number 1, Margot, Siri, and then we got the cluster of Josh Lowe, Harold Ramirez, Luke Raley. Harold Ramirez should not be mentioned in the same conversation as Josh Lowe and Luke Raley. That's if you voted, whoever voted Harold Ramirez 3rd, what have you ever watched him play baseball before? I just want to know.
That's 100% a toll job.
Yeah, I mean, not even 4th is even really high. That's
very high.
Crazy. What are you? You can't just look at his stats last year and be like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen again. Nah, you get it together. Raise RBLR listeners. I'm disappointed. And then Ben Gamel, he's
it's not happening.
He'll be gone soon. I don't expect him to stick around. He'll probably opt out. I don't think he'd want to sit in Durham as the 7th best outfielder. I mean, I guess with Harold here, he has to DH. He's not a good outfielder.
His only role, really.
Yeah, Yandy. They've said Yandy is the first baseman, and Harold and Yandy are both righties. They're not going to both play in the same. They're not going to both play first base against a left-handed pitcher. So, yeah, I don't know. Harold is the DH, I guess, but yeah, not everything else is fine though. That's my only problem is this section right here. You see how good Rayleigh has been, and then you're still like, oh yeah, Harold's better. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, whoever voted for him up there. That's no offense, but get it together.
I would agree. Also, the people that are voting Brandon Lau third also need to get it together.
Yeah, like come on, he's
Yeah.
so good. He cut
Figure
his
it out,
whiff rate in
guys.
half. He's never done that
So
before.
let's figure it out, guys.
Reinventing himself here. That's it though. I mean, we've got like no injury updates. Jordan Cassar traded to Philadelphia for cash considerations, blah blah blah. Cool. We're good. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share us, watch us on YouTube for this full beautiful experience of screen sharing and walkthroughs and division previews. And we will see you next week to recap opening day, which is Thursday. So head out to the Trop, bring your cowbells, and go Rays.
Thanks up.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.